Hello, this is Mrs. Anderton, and today I want to talk to you about in-text citations. And these can be a little tricky and a little tedious, so I wanted to go over it with you and just make sure that you have a good tutorial here to help you navigate these waters, because it can be very difficult trying to figure out how to cite something correctly in the right format. So if you look here, this is one of my best friends for citation is the Purdue Online Writing Lab, the OWL at Purdue. And if you notice here, there are 3 styles listed for citing your sources. There's an APA style, MLA style, Chicago Manual 16th edition, and there are other types of styles as well, but they're not as popular. And for our purposes here at James Madison, we use APA style in the English classes. So once you go to the OWL at Purdue, you click on the APA style. And then you want the formatting and style guide, and you're trying to figure out how to provide an in-text citation. Now, what is an in-text citation? I'm going to show you an example. So most of us already know about the reference list at the end, and by the way, in APA it is called references. In MLA it's called works cited. But so that is a list of the sources at the end of your paper, and a lot of us do a great job of putting those in there. Some of us still need to work on formatting them correctly, but they are at least listed. However, in addition to that list, you want to refer to those sources within the paragraph, within the writing in the paper itself, if you have used any portion of that source. For example, you have used a direct quote. You have gotten an idea from another source. You have used one of their words that is, specific to them, a word that is something you wouldn't have thought of on your own, a sentence that you wouldn't have thought on a wording, the way that they say it. Anything that you get from someone else, you must give them credit for that. Otherwise, it's stealing, it's plagiarism. So you want to go within your paper, and let's say that you are writing this sentence. You notice in this paragraph, there aren't any direct quotes. There's no quotation marks. However, there are 2 sources cited here. And so that means that this person is referencing them. These ideas were not their own. They came from these 2 authors, Underwood and Finlay. It might mean that they're just paraphrasing. It may mean that they are getting the idea from them. It may mean that they're just referring to some of their work here in these sentences. And that way the reader will understand that these words in here, these ideas in here are not the writer's own. They are reporting them as found in this study by Underwood and Finlay. So if you mention the authors in the sentence itself, like they do here, then you do not need to list them within the in-text citation. So Underwood and Finlay are the authors. In 2004, in parentheses, that's when they studied this effect. And then we should be able to go to the reference list and see these 2 authors' names and find what work they're actually talking about, the name of it, and be able to go and find it and read it for ourselves if we wanted to. That's the whole purpose of this. And then down here, though, they did not write the authors' names within the sentence. So they're still using their information, though. So within parentheses, they're putting Underwood and Finlay, comma, 2004, the date it was published, close parentheses with a period. Note the period doesn't go here, it goes here. And then note that they're using an ampersand here. They didn't do that up above because this is within the sentence itself. But down here, excuse me, it's an actual citation, and it's okay to take a little shortcut there. Notice down here, Tidwell and Walther, again, they're spelling out the word and because it's in the sentence, and within the in-text citation, they do not have to put their names because they've already listed them. They just have to put the date. So let's go and look at the reference list itself. You notice here this Cummings et al. That just means that there's more than one writer, an author for this study. And so instead of writing them all out every time, they can use this abbreviation and then again the date in parentheses. We're scrolling to the reference list. Try to speed it up here a little bit. And once we get down there, you're going to note several things. First of all, we can see that Underwood and Finlay citation is right here. We can see that it was indeed 2004 is the published date, the period. We can look at the name of the study itself, period, and where it was published, the journal, comma, the volume number, comma, and the page numbers, period. And there is a special way to cite each type of source, and I don't remember that. I go and look at the OWL at Purdue instead of trying to memorize all that. I just click over here and I say, I want to, in my reference list, most of us are using electronic sources, so I want to click on electronic source, and then it shows me how that should look for an online periodical, for a journal article. If you keep scrolling down, it'll show you how it should look for a database, a newspaper article, book, electronic books, so on. So there's a special way to do each type of source, to format each type of source. And if you just look over here for reference list, how do I cite a book? There it is. How do I cite a print source? How do I do an electronic source? And then the in-text citations are always the same. It's the author's name, comma, and the date it was published, unless you don't have an author, in which case you're going to just use the name of the article rather than the author. So in this case, if there was no Underwood and Finlay listed, then you would call this Internet Relationships. You don't have to write up the whole thing, but you could just put Internet Relationships in quotes and use that as part of your in-text citation. Before we leave this page, note that your reference list is alphabetized by author's last name. Also note that right after the author's name is a period, and then in parentheses is the date, another period, the name of the article, period, the name of the journal, the commas, the volume numbers, commas, page numbers, period. Nowadays, you don't have to put the URL in there, the website address, as long as it's obvious where the reader could go and find it. So let's look over then back at the OWL at Purdue. There's another way to do this without having to go through all of this. It's a little shortcut that I like, is the Citation Machine, Son of Citation Machine. You can choose your style, APA, and you can say, okay, I'm looking at a website, so I'm going to click that. I used the New York Times, so I'm going to go find that. Search websites. Let's say I'm using this one here. And it says they couldn't find all of this information, and that is needed. So we're going to continue on, and we'll have to fill out that information ourselves. And if I click over to the New York Times, I'm going to look and say, okay, I'm going to use this one, A City Rises in Queens for the U.S. Open. It's not going to let me copy that, so I'll type it in. A City Rises in Queens. Okay, and I'm going to make up the author here because it won't let me copy and paste. But don't do that. You need to write the actual author, of course. And then NewYorkTimes.com, and I'm going to skip publisher for that right now. I'm not going to display the URL because that's not needed unless it's really hard to find something where somebody couldn't find it. I'm going to say that this was published yesterday, which is going to be, or I'll just say, yeah, August 28th. Okay, and then create my citation. It's saying the date accessed was today, and then there it is. I can copy and paste that directly into my reference list. EasyBib is another source, a site that does the same thing, but I don't believe that it lets you do APA without upgrading. See if you see it's a premium feature here. So for our purposes here at JMHS, I would advise you to stick with the citationmachine.net. You can also do it the old-fashioned way by going here, and this does have just a lot of good information as far as learning the style. Down here it tells you the basics and some other things about APA style. I believe that is it. So if you have any questions, always feel free to email me. If you don't like this site, you can Google APA style formatting and come up with other sites. Here's apastyle.org. But just remember that it's very important to cite your sources within the text as well as at the end in a reference list. Thanks.